Hello, I'm Liz Lumley of Finextra, and today I'm speaking to Penny Hembrow of CGI, and we're going to talk about retail banks. So my first question for you is, what are some of the big trends the retail banking industry is talking about today?
So we've just interviewed 125 banks, and there's some very big trends that are big concerns of the industry. And top of those trends is the anticipation on the impact of digital consumerism of market share of the current banking players in the market. Mm-hmm. So there's widespread expectation that the market share is going to change with new players coming in, but also between themselves as the services innovate and people, consumers, vote with their feet and either move part of their services or actually switch providers. And people don't know whether they switch all of it or just their services, but there's a widespread anticipation of a very high switch propensity coming into the market. At the same time, there's also an expectation of service innovation, and that service innovation being accessed by consumers omni-channel, so that new buzzword in the market, and that this will change the way that banking is delivered to consumers and consumed by consumers around the world. And then finally, there is a very big concern around cybersecurity and the resilience of software. So cybersecurity, obviously from the newspapers, we all know about the hacking cases of major brands. Given that banks hold our money and our data, it's critical that they safeguard both of those for us on our behalf. And so there's a concern about how does the banking industry protect itself against cyber attack. And then also there's been some high newsworthy stories about bank systems falling over. And that's not a situation that can happen. And therefore the effort of making sure that legacy systems, and they are legacy systems in quite a lot of cases, are up to date and resilient for the speed and frequency of transactions that now go over them.
So Penny, then what are some of the business and IT implications that people are reacting to in regards to these trends you just mentioned?
So it's quite a difference between the business side of banks and the IT side.
Mm-hmm.
Although the trends are the same. and there's actually a bit of a time lag going on between the two agendas. So on the business side, it's most definitely about the digital agenda. And it's about innovating services. But also, digital is not an IT agenda, it is a business agenda. And there's very strong understanding that it is CEO-led change across the bank. And so we're seeing a lot of executive level change programs going on, changing the organisation, changing processes, and removing silos from within banks in order to address and create new customer services omni-channel. On the IT side, however, what we're seeing is not only a strong continuance of regulatory programs, so the mandatory IT change programs that's going on, but also very significant efforts to modernise and increase the resiliency of the legacy application world that they have and which they've inherited from before the financial crisis.
Decades ago. Yeah.
Yes, and so, but what we're seeing is that instead of saying, oh, let's replace, which is probably what we might have seen 4 or 5 years ago, there's a significant trend nowadays to look at it's 85% right. Let's go and buy something like that and let's fit to that rather than customise it. Mm-hmm. And particularly in the second and third tier scale banks, we're seeing them also look at software as a service. So can I go on to somebody else's platform instead of having to modernise what I've got today? And I certainly haven't got time to replace it.
So Penny, looking forward to 2 to 3 years, what should retail banks be focused on?
The first thing they're focused on today, and that'll continue for the next 3 years, is about understanding their customer base. So getting this 360 view of their customer, both in terms of their habits and profile, but also their propensity to do things, particularly before they know they want to do something. So this whole sort of behavioural analytics field that they need to get into. The second thing is really about efficiency. So with digital, we've spoken before about deep digital. Well, that means that banks are having to think about how do I become paperless? How do I move to virtual workforces? How do I really streamline and create shared services either inside my organisation or outside my organisation? And all of that is underpinned by either shared IT or standardised packages. So we're going to see a lot less home-baked applications and home-baked specialisms. We're going to see a lot more bank-in-a-box type services and also business process as a service coming through into the retail banking market.
Excellent, Penny. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.